Just as a quick catch up for everyone, I am going to host tonight, but I am new at this. I didn't know I was going to host until a little bit ago, so my apologies if I come across a little rocky. Um, just a reminder that we are recording tonight's event, so keep your camera off if you don't want to be seen. Um, we are open to questions, so at the end, we'll take any questions, or if you want to put them into the chat box so you don't forget them, then we can do that as well, and we'll just come back to that at the end as well. So welcome everyone to Ma-Nee Chacaby's workshop on storytelling. It's hosted by the Northwestern Ontario Writers Workshop. Just as a brief update, we do have an upcoming workshop on the agent search, the myths and the methods with Bonnie Hearn-Hill. So join author Bonnie Hearn-Hill in this 1-hour Zoom workshop on working with an agent. The following topics are going to be discussed: types of agents, how they work, what they want from their authors. Are you ready for an agent? How to evaluate your book, fiction, nonfiction, memoir, collections, and alternative avenues. The ubiquitous hybrid separating the true innovators from vanity presses traveling incognito. That's followed by a Q&A event, and that'll take place on December 12th at 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time via Zoom, and we will send out all the information. So we are going to do a land acknowledgement as well. So we would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in the Robinson Superior Treaty Territory, and that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, and specifically the Fort William First Nation. So Ma-Nee Chacaby is an Ojibwe-Cree writer and activist from Canada. She is most noted for her memoir, A Two-Spirit Journey, the autobiography of a lesbian Ojibwe-Cree elder, which was co-authored by Mary Louisa Plummer and published by the University of Manitoba Press in 2016. The biography was awarded in the U.S. Oral Histories Association's 2017 Book Award, as well as the Ontario Historical Society's 2018 Alison Prentice Award for Best Book on Women's History in Ontario. In addition, A Two-Spirit Journey was shortlisted for the Lambda Literary Award finalist for Lesbian Memoir Biography at the 29th Lambda Literary Awards in 2017, and was shortlisted for the Mary Scorer Award for Best Book by a Manitoba publisher at the 2017 Manitoba Book Awards. So as always, we'd like to thank the Ontario Arts Council for supporting the Northwestern Ontario Writers Workshop, and for this workshop in particular. So we're going to turn it over to Ma-Nee, and we're going to open the floor and let her tell us a bit about her journey as a writer and writing in general. So take it away.
All right. Well, I usually start off when I'm speaking to people that I want to acknowledge where I come from and how my name is Ma-Nee Chacaby. Ma-Nee Chacaby and Dijnikaz Animikiwi Dungdunji. Amek do them. Nisha Jajak Gwen Dinanaki give mood to Anibimadazuin. My name is Ma-Nee Chacaby. I am from Thunder Bay, Ontario. I was born here also, but I was raised up north. But I am presently living here now, and I do a lot. I'm an artist also. I do almost everything. I'm my one what did it jack of all trades? I'm June of all trades. I do my own things and I look after my own self, and I help a lot of people in every which way I can. And I'm also working with my own Anishinaabe way of life, which is I do a lot of teaching on ceremonies with sweetgrass and the medicines that Anishinaabe uses. That's what I walk with. That's what keeps me happy and sober, and I love life. And so here I am. I'm just going to talk a little bit about how I got interested in writing. Well, when I was a kid, I was an artist. I started off doing an art with my birch bark. I made a design of an art person. I created my grandmother. She was sitting right across from me, and I drew a picture of her using the ashes from the fire pit. And I did a nice painting of her, but it was all in black. And birch bark was in nice colors where it's smooth and everything. And I did that. It was really beautiful background. And then one day, a white woman from Indian Affairs came to visit us, and she saw that painting. It was kind of rolled up, but I had a little bit of sticks all around it so it doesn't fold back. She said, "Who is that? Who did that drawing?" And my grandmother told him that that was my granddaughter's drawing. So she come and talked to me if she could take that with her to Ottawa to show people my painting of my grandmother. My grandmother told me it was okay to let it go, that she was promised she was going to bring it back, and she never brought it back. We never saw that again. She took it, and that was it. We never saw her again. So I don't know whatever happened to that picture. So I never got it back. And I told my grandmother, how come that lady took my stuff and never brought it back? Why do people do that? And she said, well, because some people don't know how to ask if they could keep it. They just know how to ask if they could use it for a while. Maybe maybe she's got it somewhere and wants to keep it for herself, and it's okay. I'm here physically, she said. You don't have to worry about that. You can make another one of me, she said. And that was the end of that. I just that was where I started my journey with painting, creating things. I didn't know how to read and write. Then I started school when I was 10, and I had a hard time with school because I didn't know how to do anything in school. But in the last, after I came to live in Thunder Bay, after my family was gone, and had nobody left except me, my two kids I created with their dad. I left that relationship because it was very abusive place, and I didn't want to be in Babka anymore. I got tired of being there. It's a place called Babka where I was raised, and in English they call it Auden, Ontario, which is north of Beardmore. Between Beardmore and Jellicoe, there's a road that goes up north. That's our road. And I'm going to go there this summer, next summer coming. I'm going there to go visit my homeland. I heard it's not the same as it used to be. And everything that I remember having big rockets. They said when you go back as an adult, as an old person now, you're going to laugh your head off because the rocket you thought that was so huge is not big. So that's what people say when they go back home. They thought what we thought when we left it, it's not the same like that. So that's how my that's what the journey is going to show, I guess, when I go back. I went there once in 1992 with a friends, and the old buildings where it was where I used to play and all those places had changed. People were they trashed things. I guess some people did that. And the old cabin, my dad and I and the rest of the us that built the cabin, we built a little log house that time where we spent. That was gone. The only thing I was able to find was a big a big dark blue bucket with two handles and a lid, a silver lid from another kind of a pail or something. That was what I was able to salvage when I went there the last time. Because prior to that, I never went back when I left. And there was a lot of people living in that community when I left. And then when we went back, there was nobody there, hardly. Just the people that works in the CN station railway. And the road was starting to be abandoned. But this year I met one of my brothers. They're not my real biological brothers, but his mother raised me as one of her goddaughter. So she used to help my grandmother to raise me. And so she died not too long ago, about 20 years ago, she died. So her son told me, "Oh, Ma-Nee, I'm building a little cabin in Mbabaka. You should come there. The road is much better. They fixed the road up and it's really nice place to go travel back and forth." And I said, "Oh, I'm going there next summer." I told him, "Well, then I'll see you next summer. Maybe you can move back to Mbabaka if you want." I said, "Well, I don't know if I want to move back there if there's only going to be you there in the summertime. What am I going to do in the winter? There's nobody there," I said. And then I had this idea, oh, what if I'm going to die? Maybe that'd be a good place for me to go and die. That's one of the things I was thinking about, but I don't think that's ever going to happen because you don't see that happening. The people, when they die, they just die here or wherever they're at the present time. So I'm on my journey. I'm planning to go there next summer. I'm starting to round up a few people that's going to come with me. It's going to be like an expedition going back to some place that was once there, is no longer there anymore, and everything's going to be different. I know that because when I was there the last time in 92, it didn't look the same. The Hudson Bay store was gone, where I used to go do my I went trapping with my dad. We used to do a lot of trapping and moose hunting and geese hunting and doing all this fish hunting. So I learned to do that, and my grandmother wanted me to learn to do all those things because she said, "This granddaughter, the one I was born in Fort William, that's where she originally comes from, I guess, because she was made over there. She was born there. This is not her real homeland, so therefore we have to show her how to survive in the bush." And that's what my dad did. My stepdad did that for me, was to show me how to survive in the bush because of my grandmother's wishes. So I went with him everywhere, bush hunting, even when he brought those guys that were trapping, they wanted to learn. He was a guide for a while. So I became the little guide with him. So we did a lot of, it was so beautiful just to do those things. And I didn't even know that was our school. That's our school. That's how we learn things. That's our kind of school. Nothing to do with paper or nothing. We just had to do things with our hands, with our learning and watch and cook and hunt and how to hunt and how to get the weather, you know, where to listen to. If you're going to go hunting, you can't go against the wind, or the animals will know you're coming if you're going towards where you're going to see them, you think, and the wind's coming there, they're going to blow your scent to them. And I discovered all that, and when somebody says, "I went hunting and I didn't catch anything," and I said, "What did you do? Did you ever thought of where the wind is going?" "Oh no, I followed the wind." "Well, that's why you didn't catch nothing, because you always follow the wind. You don't follow the wind. You go against it." Stuff like that. I was trying to tell him to go hunting the way you're supposed to hunt. And then he would say, "Oh, I thought it was the other way around." I said, "Well, if you don't want moose smell you coming, because moose and animals got more sensitive nose than humans, and they got better ears than us." So anyway, that was my way of learning how to be who I was. And then when I went to school, I was 10 years old when I started. I didn't last very long. I only went 10 years old for about 3 or 4 months to school. Then we would go further up north to go do our trapping. So we never really had any time in that small community. We always went further up north,
Mm. 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 Mm.
because we had to go hunting and do all that stuff to to survive. Then we would come back to Mbabaka and Auden. We would have to come back there to live just for the summer months and do a lot of preserving and a lot of we've made fridges in the woods. We made fridge so animals don't get our food, our meat, whatever you catch. It's always been put away, hidden in the bush. You never know where your meat is until you go with that person and they show you how you bury your meat without other animals getting it. That was so amazing. You know, we never had to use fridge. Not like here now. You gotta have a fridge. Your little fridge is only that big. My space is only that big. It can't even last a month. My food in that fridge, in the freezer part. So anyway, that's what I learning to live the city way of life is really all you have to do is if you want lights, you just turn it on. Not like us before. We have to use kerosene and we have to use little wicks and make things how to light the house up. And I guess that was a lot of work for us because we had to do everything by hand. And then when you live in a city, well, what are you going to do with your time? You might as well start writing a story or something. I think that's what motivated me to when I lived in the city, I had to become an artist because that was the only thing that kept me busy when I was sober. I sobered up in 1975. I am a sober alcoholic. I don't go to meetings every day or every month. I just go whenever I feel like it. I believe in my own. I got a higher power that looks after me and takes care of me, and I do a lot of smudging. A lot. I live like a very simple life with my own creator who looks after me, and I believe in that because that's the way my grandmother taught me how to be. And I don't go to church and dump my load over there. I just dump my load with my creator wherever I am at my own home. And sometimes I'll write stories. So now I'll go back to how I learned to become write stories. One day when we were fiddling around with, I was in a relationship with this other, with the person, and we were learning, we wanted to learn how to do things. And we started off writing just paper, and I was learning while she was teaching me these things, how to, I didn't read, but she used to read loudly. So I would listen because I'm visually impaired. And when I started reading letters, they would I would start reading them the first 2 lines or 3 lines, everything disappears because I'm visually impaired. That's the eye disease I have. I can't see. So I always got her to read the book, read to me, and then I know what it's saying. And we would write, we would take turns to write. That's how I began to learn to write properly, like, the handwriting. I didn't know how. I used to print all the time. Now I know how to write. I know how to do lots of stuff now. With writing is so much easier than printing. It takes a lot of time when you print. But I don't mind printing once in a while. When I got nothing to do, that's what keeps me busy. I'm an artist. I do a lot of art, and I also do a lot of just creating things, different kind of art. I do T-shirts, blank T-shirts. I create a picture on a blank T-shirt and I give that away as a gift for somebody. Then I don't have to spend a lot of energy running around looking for a gift for somebody. I just make it for somebody. That's what I do when I want to do something, when I want to do gifting. So learning to write, that was the hardest one, was listening. When people read a book And then what we did in Kaministiquia, we used to draw. I used to draw pictures of people. This is my story. And then my friend would tell me, well, instead of drawing pictures, why don't you start writing what that means? Say what that thing is. So we would say that, and I would explain it, what that person does, why did it happen that way? And that's what I was doing about my book, because then one day my sister got hold of all my paperwork, everything I did. I think 10 or 11 books she destroyed. She burned them all in the bathtub, in the little square bathtub. She burned them, trashed all my papers and burned everything. And those were my collections that I've been writing since I was probably 17 years old. I had started with old papers and blank papers. You know, the ones you used to use in the wallpaper, and they were blank and they were brown. That was I used to cut them up, and I used to make pictures and write stories. Who went here? Who went there? And all that became my possessions. And then I moved to Thunder Bay. I brought them all here. That was the only thing I grabbed when I was leaving, running away from Umbabaka, from abusive relationship. I grabbed my two babies and my writings, and that was it. I went and hid them in a bush. And when I knew I was going to leave someday, I would go in that bush and find all my papers. And I brought them back with me to Thunder Bay when I was living here. When I arrived here, I was in bad shape, really in bad shape. I almost didn't survive. But I had two little kids I had to look after, and a brother, a young brother. He was 8 years old. So we came here and we started living in Thunder Bay. And then I think about 10 years ago, my sister died. Before that, I think it was 15 years ago when she grabbed all my journals and ripped them all and shred them and then burned them. My kids came running to me. They said, Mom, Auntie's doing something down in the basement. She's burning things. She's burning things. So I ran over there. It was too late. I couldn't, everything was trashed after. All my books were burnt. Every one of them that I had written when I was younger. And the drawings were gone. Everything. And she walked out. She says, I didn't know you kept those things. Why did you keep those? Where's me in that picture? You're there. You're one of those stick people. What do you mean, stick people? She said, well, you're one of those people that I created. Oh, I thought about you. I didn't forget about you. I didn't forget about your dad. I told him your dad raised me, so I didn't forget about him. But she said, well, I know what you said about Mbabaka and what my dad did and what other people do. I think that's terrible what you did. That's why I burned them, she said. They're going to get in trouble for the things you wrote. And I said, no, nobody's gonna, they can't touch your private writing. I told her, but she didn't understand that. So later in years, she came back to me and apologized for all the things she did because she knew she was dying. So I had to look after her. And I buried her and the whole family, her family. She wasn't my biological sister. She was my dad's daughter. And she was very mean when she was older than me, but she acted like a young little girl that I had to look after when she got sick. So that's how it was then. And then I said to myself, well, I guess I'll never be able to go back to my memories because they're gone. They've been burnt. They've been trashed. So I started to do art again later on after in my sobriety. I can't remember if I was probably in the 90s, early 90s. 1989, I think I started to write a little bit about me. 1975 is when I sobered up. So it was 1981 when I started to start writing again a little bit here, but I was always afraid to write because somebody else was going to trash them, you know. So by 90s, I started to have more confidence in myself, but I didn't really have that much confidence in me in writing. So I didn't, because I was always printing. Then one day, when in Kaministakar, when I was with my friends there, when we started to write a story, we were just doing that for fun of it. Let's write, let's draw, and let's read a book, and then we'll write what we think of that book. We tried that, and we didn't like it later. Then we decided, why don't we write our own stories? Write whatever you want to write, whatever comes into your brain. So every one of us would go in the other room. One person would go in the other room, and another one would go in the other room, and then we would write. And that is how I learned to start writing, to express my stuff on paper again. And I really like doing that because then we would come together at the table and take turns reading our stories. And that motivated us to write and to talk more about our personal writings and about our personal life and about what goes on. And nobody got trashed that way. Nobody says, well, I wrote better than you. Nobody said anything like that. We just were so happy to learn about each other and to learn about our own histories. That's how I got it interested in writing. Then one day I was sharing that story to one of my friends who is now a co-author with me. Was telling her my story and I gave her some of my writings. And she one day out of nowhere, she phones me up. She said, Ma-Nee, are you ready to write your story? Because I can help you write a story. And I said, yeah, I want to write one. And I don't expect it to become anything. I said, just, yeah, I want to write it, but we can, the farthest, the people I would like to reach is the people that lives around Thunder Bay and the people that lives in Geraldton, Beardmore, Babaca, well, not Babaca, but Armstrong and Kenora. That's how far I want that to go. If we can do that, I would be very happy. Maybe we find somebody who can send it to these places, like schools, I said. She said, okay, no problem. So we took turns. So every hour, every time, once a week, we got together every morning from 5 o'clock to 9:30 in the morning. So we were working 6, 7, 8, 9, 4.5 hours we would work every morning. Not every morning, but every week, but every mornings. I think it took us 200 hours to do my book. Then when it was finished, she said she was going to send it to different people. Vancouver wanted to, took it right away, wanted to, no, it was the USA border. Minnesota wanted, Michigan wanted my book and wanted to own it. And we didn't agree for them to own anything. And then next was Vancouver. Vancouver said they wanted to own it. And they were going to give me a big lump sum money. But it was going to be theirs. And we said no. And then another agency, I can't remember. There was about 5 agencies that took it. The last one was Winnipeg, Manitoba, Free Press. They called and said, well, we don't want to own, we're not going to own your book, but we're going to publish it for you. For the first 5 years, it's going to be ours. Is that okay? We said, okay. So 5 years is up now. Mhm. 5 years is up now. And so what I do what what we do now, we made another agreement. They're gonna do it. They're working on an audio now, like through what's an audio anyway?
Like an audio book?
Yeah, they're doing the audio book now.
Oh,
I
cool.
think they're almost done with it now because I told them that I'd like other people that can't read or write to hear it. Like other people like me, there's a lot of Anishinaabeks that wants to read my book, but they can't read. But if they hear it on a tape, it's so much better for them. Then they'll understand it. I'm not doing the translation. It's another lady from another place. They found a woman who talks like me that will translate it. But it's not going to be me translating. It's going to be another woman that's translating my book, which will be nice to hear her because she has almost the same accent as mine, and she talks about the way she reads is really, her voice is very nice and very nice voice she's got, and she sounds very clear when she's reading the first chapter. So I thought that was really I thought that was really interesting. So they're gonna do that. And after that, then the book is mine. I can do whatever I want with it. So my future is I'm going back to Mbabka next year to take a film person to come into the film where I used to be, what it was like, and then I will read my story and talk about my book, and that's going to become the documentary. That's what we're trying to do. Once I get approval for money from the Arts Council, wherever you get money from, and I have to find the person to do that with me, who's going to do the film stuff. And so that's what I was planning to do with that book. I'm working on my second book now, and it's the second book I'm looking at is now about what happened after my book came out and what it's like to live in a city as who I am right now as a person. What kind of things needs to change in what I see as for the First Nations people. And I want to encourage people to start writing their real stories, not not other stories what they think they should write, but the real story of their own lives, what happened a long time ago, what it was like, how the trapping was and how the hunting was, because our young people need to learn how to survive if something ever happened in this planet. So, and it's good for them to learn these things, to read about these kind of histories. So that's what my next book I was thinking about. I'm gathering up all these things now in my paper, and I just need to find a writer who's going to really sit down with me to write it and talk about it like Mary did with me when we were writing that book. So that's the plans of my future for next year. So I don't know if that makes sense. If anybody has any more questions. Um, I never thought it was ever going to go to Winnipeg, and I never ever thought it was ever going to go anywhere else other than those places I wanted to go. And I just wanted people around Thunder Bay and Geraldton, a few other people, small places for them to read the book. So to encourage the other Native people to write their stories because it's so much better to hear what they had to go through in their own life. And for fact, that's what this means. And when you're writing your story, as opposed to where people just, oh, this native person did this. You see these Indian pictures with bows and arrows. You see those. That's not real. We didn't look like that really. That's just an imagination of a lot of people. And my grandmother often said that. I don't know where they got that picture idea from. She would often say, people didn't look like that, the ones I remembered, she said. And then when she heard stories, she says, I heard stories from 7 generations in my time, she said. And I never heard anybody running around half naked with no clothes on and long hair, she said. Only the people that got lost maybe did lose their clothes and have to wear other kind of garments to cover up, she said. But she said, see, that's how they visualize people. She would tell me, don't ever feel ashamed of whatever they create a picture. She said, that is what they thought people might look like. That is not real, she said. That's just imagination on their own part, she would say. So don't believe what you see or what you hear about. She said, try to go back to your own generations, talk to your grandmother, talk to your grandfathers, and then their grandfather, and then try to listen to those stories. That's how the story was passed on. We didn't have no writings or papers, she said. That's what she told me. And when she died, she was about 109, my grandmother. So she was telling the truth about what she wanted me to live like, how to be. She told me I was a two-spirit child, and two-spirit child doesn't mean you're bad and one child is bad and one child is good. She said two-spirit just means that they just accepted their two-spirit children. She said people were born that way, that as they grow older, they were interested in their own same kind. She said, we didn't throw them away because they were different. We had to raise them because Creator gave us all gifts we have today, she said. And those are the beautiful gifts you have, even though if a child is born with one arm, you have to keep that kid. You can't throw it away. So if a child is born in your house that is a lesbian or that is gay, you have to take that child. You can't throw it away because that's a gift. My grandmother always called people gifts. When you meet a white person down the road, first time you meet a white person, she said, that's a gift. Somebody brought that gift in front of you. You have to do something good with that gift. You don't push it away and throw it away. She said, you take it and listen to it and then hear what it has to say. Those are the teachings of my grandmother. And that's what I like to teach my young people now when I hang out with them. I always talk to them about love and respect, first of all for themselves, and then the rest just follows. That's what I always tell them. It just, you don't get born and then be that person. You're never born mean, never. Every child that's born here is very innocent and don't ever think of anybody bad or anything, because that's not how life is. Life is a beautiful gift. I always tell my young people that when they follow me. I always try to be, try to explain them why love is so important. And love is the hardest work you do. When somebody tells you, oh, look at that bad person, what did that person do? Right away, you're angry. And then you carry that anger and you start torturing yourself because that person's bad and you hear everything bad about that person. It becomes true in your own mind. Then you become like one of them. So that's why I always teach my younger people, like, love is the hardest work. Hate and anger is so easy. You can adopt those just like that. But to work with love, that takes a long time because you have to learn to love yourself and respect yourself. And then you have respect from other people because you don't even know you're passing it on. It just comes with you naturally. That's what I see in people. And when people treated me the way I was treated when I was young, I don't have any more anger, or I don't have any um, bad feelings. Like I used to, before I did my book and all that, I used to be angry with my mother because she gave me a gift that she didn't even want me and gave me up for adoption. But lucky my grandmother heard about me and she's the one that took me. So for a long time, I didn't like my mother for treating me that way. And then when she came home, we looked at each other. She didn't like me. I didn't like her. But then she liked my stepdad's daughter. She liked her better than she liked me. Then towards the end of her death, I ended up looking after her. And the daughter she really loved disappeared. So, but when she was dying, she said, "Can you raise your brother? Can you look after your brother?" Well, of course I will, I told her. And she apologized for the way she treated me because she finally saw that I was there still, no matter what. And I know she gave me a good life. I don't resent her for that. I did for a little while, but then when I sober up, I started to realize what I had to work on. I didn't want to carry any more of that anger or garbage because I didn't want to be like my mom. I don't want to be like her. I wanted to be nice like my grandmother because my grandmother taught me about love and respect. And that stayed with me a lot more than everything else did. I could have been an angry, miserable old lady right now if I would have went the other way. But that's why I said love is very strong, strong thing to use in your life. So if anybody's got any more questions, it's fine with me. I'm ready to answer, and it doesn't matter what you ask. I might not answer because I might not know.
First of all, wow, just what a journey. What a life you've lived, from your mom and your grandmother and your sister burning your books. I could the like I feel emotional for you for that. Um you talk about all of these people and they all seem to be storytellers in their own right. And I like what your grandmother said about, you know, everything that comes into your life is a gift, and whether it's good or bad, it's brought into your world for a reason. And I
Yeah,
think that's such a beautiful way of looking at the world. And in some ways it seems like your grandmother was like the first storyteller in your life, when talking about paintings or talking about family or talking about the world or love, and she was like your first storyteller, it seems.
she was.
And I really really like what you said too about, well, there's sort of two sides of it, but why write, why tell your story? Well, it's to remember the past and to remember where you've been, and also that, wanting your book to become an audiobook, which allows those who can't read, letters and words, being able to sit and listen to those stories, because storytelling is, it's about sharing, a story. And I mean, we're writers, right? So we typically talk about writing things down in paper and pens and computers, but
Mm-hmm.
you're completely right that storytelling is audio. It is passing on those narratives, and so much history does get lost without sharing. And I feel like you covered a lot of great ground today.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Like
really,
I always think about it. Like I'm thinking, well, if my grandmother didn't tell me any stories, I wouldn't have anything to say to people.
mhm.
But just going back, my memory, going back to my childhood, and then remembering what people did, even how do you make a canoe and how you make your snowshoes and how you make things. I was all of those things my grandmother wanted me to know these things just in case I was stuck in the bush. What am I going to do when I'm in the bush? Which I did. I got lost once in the bush.
I'm
And I
glad you
survived because of my grandmother's teachings.
thank you, grandmother. It's you're leading a path though for people. You as a storyteller make it easier for others to share their story. Um, do you feel like there's responsibility that comes with that?
Pardon?
Do you feel that there's responsibility that comes with that, that you sort of have trailblazed in a way to share your story and to encourage other people to?
Well, maybe the encouragement part.
Mm,
Um, I think I got tired of people saying that I went to residential school and I got treated this way. That's what motivated me. They
mm,
said, I went to residential school. You didn't go there. You didn't know what it was like. And then I told them, well, you know what? I didn't go to residential school, but I had my own residential school in Numbabaka. I had my own people that bashed me because you kids left. You kids went to residential school. There was hardly any kids left except me and three other kids about my age that was left by accidentally. We were hidden under the bed somewhere and their grandparents hid them too. So
mhm,
we were the ones I was left behind. And then we end up looking after everybody else's little kids.
mhm,
And the other people, they got drowned in their drinking because their kids was taken away. Some people had five kids. Five kids was taken away from their house. So they became nothing but drunks and started to become, I don't know, I guess the pain was too much for them. So they used alcohol to cover their pain.
mhm.
And then the ones that went to school far away, they were sent, like my stepsister was sent to Sault Ste. Marie. My baby brother went to Macintosh. Me, I was already in the bush, way far away hunting with my dad. When
Mhm.
I came home, the whole village was empty. There was no kids playing outside. There was only people looking in the window. And I told my dad, what's going on? How come it's so quiet? He
Mhm.
said, I don't know. We'll find out when we get home. Then when we walk in, my mother was screaming her head off, crying to my dad that my sister was gone and the baby brother was gone and
Mhm.
there was me. And she got mad at me for being there. She didn't like me because the others were gone. And
Yeah.
my stepdad, he just told her, well, you can't beat her for that. It's not her doing.
Mhm.
And then she said, all what the government papers did is they came knocking on our door, threw the paper in the house, and took the kids. We couldn't say no. We tried to keep them, but they just stopped us, she said. And there were these men with long trench coats, and they wear those funny round hats with a little beak on it. She said that's what they look like, these people that came and got the kids. And then they put them on a train, and the kids were gone. Only
Wow.
the ones that were hidden was left behind.
Mhm.
Mia happened to be in a bush trapping,
Yeah.
learning. And so that's one of the things my my mom used to have a problem with that because I didn't go. And I ended up doing everything in that house because the others were gone. So, and that's why when people would say to me, well, you're lucky you didn't go to residential school, Ma-Nee. And I said, and you guys were lucky you were at residential school because what I had to go through in Mbabaka, I paid for all you guys' crimes because you left your moms behind. That's what I always tell them because I was angry too, right? But then I began to realize, no, it wasn't their fault they were taken away. They couldn't say no because they weren't old enough to say no. I began to realize that after. And then now when I tell people, well, I went because I didn't go because it was my choice. I happened to be in the bush when they were taking kids away. And then when we heard they were coming back, they took me back in the bush again. And when they came and looked for some more kids to take, there was hardly any kids left anyways. The ones that were left there always got taken away in the bush, so they can't come and get them.
Mm.
And then they slowly forgot all about it. And this is what the residential school did for the people. They get mad at their parents because they think their parents sent them away, but they didn't.
Mhm.
So that was really hard.
There's so many
And that's
stories.
why, yeah, and that's why I wrote that book. Well, I'm going to tell what happened in my own story, in my own way, the way it was for me. Because I always got tired of being told, if it wasn't for you, if it wasn't, how come you didn't end up like we did? Why? Yeah.
Everyone's experience, right? You had one experience, the kids who were taken had an experience, the parents left behind had an experience, and all of those stories are stories that need to be heard. And I think that your story isn't heard enough because there are other people like yourself who have had to endure a different, set of
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. And
Yeah.
I do you think that all stories should start with personal experience? Like
Oh,
when we,
definitely.
yeah.
You shouldn't be ashamed to write your personal story. I think that makes when you write your own personal story, when you look at the life the way it was,
Mhm.
it's the truth you're talking about. You're not hiding anything. You're telling the truth about what it was like. So the other siblings or your family, other people will understand where you're coming from.
How did you overcome your sister though, who was like, "You're gonna get in trouble if you tell your story. You're talking about our family. You're gonna like." It was seemed very negative, and yet you still years later were able to come back to telling your story and to writing and say, "Actually, I'm still gonna tell my story." Like, how did you overcome your family and people destroying your work and then saying, no, my story still needs to be heard?
I just told them that I wanted them to know my grandmother
That's
because
beautiful.
whatever I say, my grandmother's part of me. And
Love it.
she's the one that raised me to be a good person.
Mhm.
And I know I'm a good person. There's nothing I wouldn't do for anybody that if I saw somebody got hurt, I go over there and I help. If I see somebody needs something, I go over there. If I have something that they need, I don't need it today, they can have it today. You know, I that's the way my grandmother taught me to be, just to love people. She said loving is more better than anything else, better than the garbage you carry around.
I
You
hope
know,
so.
love is more
so
beautiful.
so what advice do you have for people then to be brave enough and to start their own storytelling? Like,
I wish a lot more people like in Thunder Bay would write their stories.
mhm,
I don't care about other cities, but in our city, I think Thunder Bay people should write about their stories and just write and tell the real history of where you came from, who you are, what you are today.
yeah,
And then other kids will see what we do, and other young people will start reading and they'll start adopting those kind of things
yeah,
for themselves because we are giving them some tools, right?
yeah.
People gave us tools, we take it, and then they can take the tools we give them
Mhm.
because it's about love and respect. That is more important than anything else. To
Mhm.
me, anyway, that is more important.
You can get through life if you got those two things. You're doing good. You're doing well
Yeah,
if you got love and respect for yourself and for other people, right?
yeah.
And I agree. I wish that more people of all ages, young people, older people, that they would share their story, because I do think that there are so many things happening that, we as individuals just see what's happening in our bubble, right? We don't always see what's
Yeah.
somebody else's experiences, right?
Hmm.
No, I
I
agree.
think Thunder Bay is a beautiful city to be in.
Mhm.
It's not big. It's not as crowded when you go out. It's a beautiful city. Yes, there's a lot of crime happening, but so what? Everybody else has it in every city anyways.
We have lots of trees and it's just clean air and it's pretty cozy and
Yeah, we can disappear 10 minutes away. We're in the middle of nowhere.
yes.
That's what I like about Thunder Bay.
Yep. So, are there any questions from anybody else who's been listening? Oh, Vera has one. She's typing one, maybe? She's typing one. Okay, stand by for Vera.
I think Crystal has a question too, maybe while Vera's typing.
Go ahead, Chris.
Just two. The first one is a comment. I think that it's amazing or a blessing that you stayed in your community instead of going to the residential schools, because the stories and the teachings that you can pass on from that experience, I think, are extremely relevant today, because there are still so many people that are up in the communities that can probably really benefit from your stories and your perspective, because it's a
Hmm.
different perspective. It's just um, it's valuable. Your experience is very valuable,
Mhm.
and
Thank
that
you.
you're welcome, and that you've healed from it, and that you're able to talk about it and share it in a healthy way. It takes a lot of healing to be able to do that and be so honest and so emotional about it. It's just an amazing journey to see.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then my question, because I have one question,
Yeah.
is why did you take the bucket and the lid? Was that to keep your paperwork in, your manuscripts? Is that how you carried them out of the community?
No, because it reminded me of where I came from. To remind me when I go back, I have picked up a bucket from there, and I have picked up a lid, different lid. Two things that's going to remind me of the place where I'm going to look and see what it looks like next time,
Hmm.
which is creating a journey to go there next year, next summer.
Yeah. The bucket is for carrying water, I'm guessing.
Pardon?
The bucket is for carrying water, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ma-Nee, we have a question from Vera, and so this is what she said. I'm adopted by my grandmother too, and I had a lot of guilt that she had to raise me when her children were grown. Did you ever feel that kind of guilt?
She feels guilty because what?
She said because her grandmother had to raise her when her children were grown. And did you ever feel that kind of guilt?
Yes, sometimes because my grandmother did a lot of caring, but I let it go. I remember what she said. You were born to be this way. And one of the things she often said, you were born to be this way. Your mother's not here for you. I'm here for you.
Mhm.
And she always said, don't ever feel bad because your turn will come when you're going to be looking after me, which is true.
You got to
I
repeat.
ended up looking after her after.
Mhm.
I do that with my kids now, my grandkids. If I look after them, I said, I don't mind you guys looking after me now. You guys have to take care of me.
That's pretty good. Hopefully they remember to pay that debt. Right?
Some of them aren't ready yet. They're too young.
That's okay. We'll give them a bit yet.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else with questions? Anybody? No? Okay. Thank you very, very much, Ma-Nee, for being here tonight and for talking to us about storytelling and sharing your story and the places that you've come from that have led to you feeling inspired to write and to sharing your story. And I do hope that you continue to encourage other people to speak up and share their own story as well. It's
Yeah. What I would like to say is, I know you guys do some writings, people do writing. When you guys are writing your stories or whatever you're writing about, just even if you can't write, you just scratch or just get a paper and draw pictures and get somebody to write for you to share your story, because I think it's so important. And we shouldn't be afraid of how we say it, because not one person in this world is the best writer in the world. We are all best at what we do, and this is what we are capable of doing. Nobody can tell me that they're better than somebody and this better writer. And I don't believe that kind when they say that. That's just mocking somebody for no reason, or to put somebody up on a pedestal, they call it. And then that puts other people down. Well, I can't write like her. I can't be like that. So they give up writing. So never give up writing. Even if you have to draw pictures, get somebody else to write for you, because it's your story. And it's best for us to leave our stories with our young people nowadays.
that's fantastic, and I agree. And also, when people talk about comparing to others, you are always the expert on yourself and your story, right? So nobody can
Yeah,
write a Ma-Nee story better than Ma-Nee, right? And
yeah.
I definitely know myself better. Right?
And you can do a good story
Right?
the way you want to do it, and nobody's going to write better than you, because you are the only true artist of that.
Of your story, right? It's
Yeah,
very, very true. And hopefully, more people are encouraged to follow that.
yeah.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. And
Thank you very much too.
okay, and you got some people clapping and
Me, Gretch.
okay, well, thank you everyone, and I hope you have a great night then.